Welcome to this month's RLW, Read, Listen, Watch on Roofers Coffee Shop. My name is Heidi Ellsworth, and I am so excited to have you all here today because we have Georgia Pacific in the house. Mr. Chad Frank is here with us today, and they're going to be talking about, or Chad and I are going to be talking about cover boards. I tell you, I am so glad you're all here because this is going to be a game changer for the roofing industry. And I'm so happy that Georgia Pacific has come on today to share this with us. Before we get started, I want to make sure we have some housekeeping. This is being recorded. So if you want to watch it on demand or share it with someone else later on, very easy to do that. It'll be right there on Roofers Coffee Shop under the RLW navigation. And at the same time, we have Q&A at the end. So keep your questions, get them into the question box over in your control panel on the right-hand side, and also in the chat. Megan Ellsworth is back in the control center, and she'll be answering your chats and questions and getting them all lined up so you can ask Chad questions at the end. So let's get started. I'm telling you, this is going to be a great webinar today. And so the first thing I want to do is I want to introduce our guest, Chad Frank. Hello, Chad.
Hello, how are you, Heidi?
I am great. Welcome to the show, and thank you for being here today. Chad has been with Georgia Pacific for 22 years. I think we both started about the same time. I may have started a little bit before you, Chad, but he's done everything. He is currently the director of system sales, but he's held multiple positions within Georgia Pacific, working with Dens and DensDeck throughout the years. He was also, thank you, Chad, he was in the U.S. Army, 1st Ranger Battalion. So I always like to say thank you for your service there. The roofing industry brings us all together.
It's my pleasure.
And so Chad is here today, and we're going to really, like I said, we're going to be talking about cover boards, but we're talking about data that has been put together by third parties and that really is going to help every contractor out there explain the importance of cover boards to building owners. So we're going to get started with that. So Chad, are you ready to go?
I am. And thank you for the nice introduction and for making me look good. And thank you for the opportunity to be here today for this webinar. It's very much appreciated.
Well, I can't tell you how happy we are to have you. This is a really important issue, and it is something that you and your company and everyone there has stepped up and really brought a solution to the market, multiple solutions. So, but before we get started, before I jump too far ahead, why don't we start with, very simple for those who may not know, who are listening in, what is a cover board?
Yeah, it's a great place to start, right? So,
yeah.
So a cover board is a rigid material that's installed in a roof assembly that enhances the resiliency and durability of the entire assembly. It's installed below the membrane and above the insulation to maximize minimize the deterioration of other roofing components during the service life of the roof.
You know, this past year, Chad, we have, well, let's not say the past year, past decade, we have seen so much around weather events, around wildfires, and then so much more that's even just going up on the roof. Can you share with us, let's kind of just work through some of the benefits of that cover board when it comes to dealing with all of these weather events. Maybe you can start with, puncture resistance.
Sure, and there's a lot more to puncture resistance than just the weather. A lot of people tend to think about hail, but during the construction of or re-roof process, there's people may drop tools. There's other trades that come up once the roof is finished, and the roofer has signed off, the membrane manufacturer signed off, and then the other trades come up to do masonry work and stuff like that, and they may not think about the damage that they're doing to the roof. In generally, the cover boards protect the membrane, and as well as the insulation. We'll talk about that in a minute. But from rooftop equipment, which, like you alluded to, there's a lot more equipment up on roofs now than there ever has been in the past. And with all of that rooftop equipment comes the need to maintain it. So there's an increased foot traffic as well. And then of course you do have the impacts of weather and hail. But I wanted to talk a little bit, not just so much about puncture, because sometimes we think about puncture, maybe hail or some force coming down on it, but that increased foot traffic, you know, if there's any kind of debris on the roof or a screw left from another trade and someone steps on that, you have the potential to puncture it, or just that increased foot traffic on a roof system that doesn't have a coverboard or rigid coverboard underneath. You may only have insulation that has a 20 or 25 psi compressive strength. And as that flexes, you could actually break the adhesive bond between the membrane and the insulation, and that would allow the membrane to come loose. So with a rigid coverboard, you avoid a lot of that.
Yeah, I've loved, as we prepared for this and kind of talked, I love how you talk about that it's the coverboard that's protecting the membrane. And so maybe talk a little bit more about that.
Yeah, it's great. I'm glad you brought that up, because a lot of people have a challenge comprehending how can something like, a coverboard under the membrane actually protect the membrane. And we used to do a little sales technique would be if you held a piece of paper on your hand, right, which is soft, and you dropped a pen, it's going to poke through the paper. If you put that paper on the desk and you drop a pen, it doesn't poke through it, right? It's the same philosophy. So it's actually helping to protect that membrane from those punctures, even though it's below it.
Yeah, and then also, kind of moving on to fire resistance, but we also have moisture issues. It kind of all goes together. How does the coverboard help with that?
Well, as far as moisture, so moisture intrusion, when we go back a few years, we did a survey, and consultants were concerned. The number one concern was puncture, and then second was moisture, right? So if you can eliminate or highly reduce the ability or minimize the ability for the membrane to be punctured, then you also minimize the ability for water to find its way into the roof system.
Yeah, and it's the same. DensDeck, what a name! But we know. Talk a little bit about the fire resistance.
Sure. So some coverboards perform better than others, especially around fire. And gypsum has a natural fire resistant quality. It's made from mineral, a rock, right? And so rigid coverboards that contain gypsum provide an enhanced fire resistance that further protect the roof assembly.
And we know that's, I live in the West Coast. We know this is important. This is happening all the time. It's to be able to add that added protection to the building. And you talked a little bit about the insulation, and that makes so much sense. But let's talk a little bit about wind uplift, another thing being driven by the elements. How do the coverboards help that?
Yeah, and actually, I don't want to skip over too much on the insulation, because the insulation is like one of the most important, but also most expensive parts of a roof assembly, right? Yeah. So we're protecting that membrane from those punctures, but then we're also protecting that insulation from being crushed. We're helping to reduce the intrusion of moisture through puncture, where that moisture then would affect the insulation and not allow it to do its job and preserve that maximum R value and energy efficiency. So very important point there, that we're not just protecting the membrane, but also protecting the insulation. Yeah, and then on to wind uplift, sure. So again, we mentioned rigid coverboards in the roofing assemblies, and they stand up to high winds that can produce damaging uplift pressures, preserving the integrity of the building and preserving or preventing the need for future repairs. Yeah.
Well, thank you, because I think it's really important that we kind of get some of that baseline of just what the coverboard is, what it's already doing to protect the roof. We know that's so important. Now I want to get into this last bullet point. We're going to actually move on to the next slide, because we want to talk about data. data
Mhm.
about savings, data about that has come through. So I know that FMI Corporation, which is a leading provider of consulting and surveys and works with a lot of different folks in the industry, have come out with an amazing study that really, really started to show how contractors can help building owners. So Chad, let's talk about that a little bit. What was this survey?
Sure. So the survey that was completed by FMI um, was based off. We understand that the majority of new roofing or new roofs um, are specified with a cover board, right? There's somebody that's designing that roof has already seen the value. They understand the value in specifying a cover board to provide that additional durability, and fire resistance, and to decrease the negative effects of weather-related events like we spoke of in the foot traffic. But we had the hypothesis that that wasn't necessarily the case for re-roof applications. So we wanted to better understand that. And the in a re-roof situation, the owners don't typically, what we learned was the owners don't typically engage in a design expert. What they do is they get with their roofing contractor. Many times it could be the roofing contractor company that installed the roof 10, 12, 15 years ago or more, and they've been maintaining it. And so that's who they turn to. So that's what we were referred to as the decision-making dynamics.
Yeah, and so on those decision dynamics, I mean, I think there's a number of us who would have said, "Oh yeah, we know the roofing contractors are making those decisions,"
Right.
but a lot of times, you really do need to hear that from the building owners, and so
Right.
that makes this even more important, right? This data that you're going to share with us is even more important because we need to get this in the hands of the contractors, and that's what you're doing today, in
Yeah.
order for them to communicate with the building owners. Um, so in this survey, how did, tell us about the survey. How was it collected? What were they looking for? What was kind of the overall program?
Right. And I think back to your point, I think, we have that kind of tribal knowledge, those of us that are in the roofing industry, right, about the importance that the contractor plays in the role of helping owners decide, what system, what assemblies they should go with when they re-roof. Um, so once, we helped solidify that through this survey, then it was to take it to the next step and try to understand and collect that data from those owners and get those findings so that we can get it in the hands of the contractor so that they can help articulate that value um, to the owner. So the survey by FMI was conducted by interviewing and collecting data from owners, facility managers, and property managers of 74 different organizations. There weren't a lot of uh, limitations put out. There were the only ones that they really had were they wanted roofs under 100,000 square feet, so that way it wouldn't skew the numbers in one way or the other. The roofs that had been re-roofed couldn't have experienced a catastrophic event, again, because that would skew the data. And we actually they had over 120, I think it was 123 roofs that they had the data on. Once they went through to make sure that everything had met that criteria that I just talked about, they ended up with 112 roofs that are in that 25, which is common. The typical low slope commercial roof is about 25,000 square feet. They also wanted fresh or recent data, so the roof replacement had to happen within the last 5 years, and then the owner's life expectancy to be that of about 20 years.
And in this survey, they were looking to find out how these roofs were performing, right, with for these building owners.
Yeah, so they looked at what their expectations were as the owner. They also gathered the information on what the warranty life was, but it was more so around how did the roof with the cover board perform compared to a roof without a cover board? And then what were those costs that were associated with that life of the roof?
Wow. Okay.
Yep.
So now the contractors are going to have some real data to go and talk to the building owners about with or without. That's what we're kind of looking at here. And so as we go on and start talking to them about the cost savings for operations and maintenance, what did they find?
Right. So single-ply roof systems with cover boards reduce the O&M cost by an average of $1,750 annually on those 25,000 square foot roofs. So $1,750 annually. That's the reduction in their O&M costs. And those O&M costs ranged from 33 to 65% depending on the single-ply membrane type. In the survey, the single-ply that were in the survey were TPO, PVC, and EPDM. But I just want to caution that the survey, the intent of the survey was not to compare the single-ply membrane types, right? It wasn't to look at which one performed better or worse compared to other single-ply membranes. The purpose of the survey was to, again, like you just said, with or without a cover board, let's understand how long the roof lasted, and then what were some of the costs associated with that throughout its life. So the takeaway, the overall finding there was, no matter what single-ply membrane was used, all of the roofs benefited from the use of a cover board.
Wow. So, let's just talk about that for a little bit. So when you're looking at roofing contractors, so many roofing contractors also have service and maintenance programs where they're going up and taking care of the roofs afterwards. And so when you are talking to a building owner about cover boards and you can show these kind of numbers, so, I mean, $1,750 annually on average savings, that's quite a tool for the salespeople of that roofing company.
Right, and it's no secret whenever you enhance a roof system with the use of a cover board, let's say, there's going to be an increase in cost, right? And if you were a contractor trying to have a conversation with an owner without data, it could be an emotional discussion, right? They may think that they're just trying to upsell them on something that they don't need. So the point of having the data and having a survey like this to back up those claims and is really to help the contractor be able to articulate the value that a cover board brings to the roof, and then have some numbers to kind of back it up. The contractors themselves see the value in a cover board, and it's just a matter of how to articulate that to an owner.
Yeah, and just over the years, as we were talking about before, being in this industry a while, both of us, I really have seen just how much data, the growth of requiring data has happened. It seemed like in past decades, it'd be like, this is just what you have to do. That's how it is. And now it's like, no, show me the data. What are the analytics? How's this work?
It's a smarter industry, right? It's a much more technical industry now than it was decades ago. Building designs have changed. Owners are smarter. They want more for their money. And this is one way for the contractor to be able to do it. And again, and contractors, typically the first 24 months of a roof install, they're liable for a lot of that piece of the warranty, right? So they want the roof to perform. And we've done voice of customer and some surveys to see that a large number of roofs experience puncture and water intrusion within the first 12 months. So if we can help the contractor get through those first 24 months where they have a lot of liability, then just one more reason for them to be a fan of cover boards.
Right. It does. And, really, as we're looking at this, and we think about the life expectancy. So again, a lot of contractors are using service and maintenance and talking about life expectancy and how important service and maintenance is.
Right.
Now you're able to, with this data, give one more example of how you can increase that. So how did that work?
Well, you can see the numbers here. Of the single-ply roofs that didn't have a cover board, only 52% of them actually met the owner's life expectancy. So that was kind of shocking. We knew that, you know, with the cover board you would experience a longer life expectancy, but when there wasn't a cover board used, I think the 52% was eye-opening for us. But 86% of the single-ply membrane roof systems that had a cover board met the owner's life expectancy. So, and actually, a side note on that, interestingly enough, that there were eight systems that had a cover board that didn't meet the owner's life expectancy that were in the study, but four of those did surpass the warranty life. So if you were to include those, you'd be up as high as 93% would have met the life expectancy. So that's a pretty high number, especially when you compare it to the 52% without a cover board only meeting, not meeting their owner's life expectancy.
I think that's a great example too, because really this is about setting the correct expectations.
Right.
There's warranty life, there's what a building owner may have in their mind, and how long they think it should last. So being really able to have these kind of discussions with or without cover board, the type of system, that really helps set proper expectations for that building owner also.
Right. I mean, in the end, the contractor wants the owner to be happy. They want them to be happy with the roof system that they've selected. They want them to be happy and satisfied with the work that they provided, right? And then continue on with that relationship over the life of that roof, so that when they do need to re-roof, they come back to them, right? So it's very important for them to be able to have this information and be able to share it. And really, the big takeaway out of this here is that roof systems with the cover board are much more likely to meet the owner's life expectancy. And you called it out. You mentioned that there's owner's life expectancy, and then there's warranty life, and those are different. And in some of these cases, the warranty may have been 15 years, the owner expected 20, and in some cases it may have been opposite, 30 years or 25 years versus 20 years. But yeah, so they're different. I'm sorry, Heidi, I can't hear you.
Oh, I'm sorry. It's all about good communication. Sorry about that. I had a little glitch. So as we're kind of looking at that too, and the name of this webinar was The Proof is in the Roof. So kind of summarize what you found from that survey, and then we were going to get more into how to use it. So what was kind of your biggest takeaways?
Yeah, you can see right here the lower O&M costs, significantly lower when they utilize a cover board. The roof's going to last longer. It's more apt to meet the owner's life expectancy. So again, you have a happy owner, you could have a repeat customer, right? And then cover boards with, roofs with the cover board, they experienced 4 more years of their life with or roof life with single-ply membranes when you compare that to roofs without a cover board. So, and during the lifespan of the roof, again, the roofs with the cover board are just much less likely to be impacted by outside forces. So, we spoke about hail and weather and foot traffic, and of course catastrophic events as well. So,
right. 4 years, that's quite a number. That is really something that contractors can use when talking to facility managers, building owners. Talk to us a little bit more about how important that is in that sales process.
Sure. So 4 years, we've kind of looked at it and said, is it better to present it as 20% longer life, or is it 4 years? I mean, when you think about, if you're talking about a 20-year owner's life expectancy, you throw 4 years at it, you think about it, that's 4 years. Every company, um, it's always a battle for capital, right?
Mhm.
If you know you're going to get the life expectancy or the longer life out of a roof with the cover board, then it makes sense to put it in now, and then you can use those 4 years can be used to start to accrue money for the re-roof, right? For the
Right.
next life of that roof, versus having it fall short or not meet the life expectancy, um, dealing with the failures, the additional cost of that, and then having to re-roof essentially before you needed to or had planned on it.
Right. Yeah. That I think when you are looking at, especially with the commercial roofing industry as it is and everything we've gone through in the last couple of years, 4 years is a lot. I mean, that's going to perk up any facility manager's
Yeah.
ears. Um,
4 years ago, I
so,
had a full head of hair, Heidi.
oh, Chad, I love it. Okay, now I know you have tremendous sales experience, and I know you've been doing sales for a long time. So I want to take this chance right now to really pull from your experience and on how you would use, how are you talking about, and all of the experts at Georgia Pacific, how are you talking about using this research in the sales process?
Sure. And it's about leveraging that data, right? Using it to show the value. Um, but let's go back to what we had initially learned with the survey. The owners rely heavily on the roofing contractor for advice on re-roofing their buildings. They don't go out and seek a design expert or architect or consultant the majority of the times. So that's built on the trust and relationship that they have with the roofing contractor that's been maintaining their roof. The NRCA has supported the use of a cover board since the 1970s. Contractors firmly believe in the benefits of cover boards, and they've actually asked us. They've reached out and looked for support when they're proposing and explaining the value of a cover board to an owner, so that it doesn't look like it's an upsell, right? And that it's just they're trying to give the owner something that they don't actually need. So having this data, having the numbers with it, will help the contractor be able to articulate the value and the cost savings to the owner when they're considering what is the appropriate roof assembly and the performance requirements of the roof, right? You know, roofs have different requirements. Some and actually, you think about like photovoltaic. A lot of owners now may go to that in the future. So you want to be prepared for it now
Yeah.
by putting your cover board in for the weight of the systems, for the additional foot traffic to maintain those systems, for the fire rating. So it's important for the contractor to understand what are the performance requirements now from the owner, but also in the future, and then let's make sure that we get them the roof that they need. So
Yeah, that's so smart. And being able to use this data now, but then, like you said, also talking about what's the future look like.
right.
And I know that your team is doing a huge amount on new technologies, on how to make the products kind of fit those future needs that we're seeing rooftop.
Hmm.
So I, you know, for all of you, as you're thinking about this, you've got the survey data, you've got that to be able to use in your sales process and your marketing process, but now you also have the technology and the information. So Chad, talk about Eonic technology.
Right. Uh, like you had mentioned before, that the industry's changing. It's a more technical, more innovative industry than it has been in the past. I think it's important for the contractor when communicating to the owner to remind them that, like you just said, 4 years seems like a long time, but also, looking ahead, maybe it's not just about right now, but it's about the future. Remind the owner that the 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 roof isn't just protecting everything inside it, all of their assets inside it, but the roof is an asset itself, and it's truly the first line of defense. So if it's your first line of defense, then you want to have products in there that you're confident in, that they're going to perform not just under normal conditions, but all of those conditions that we've been talking about: the heightened foot traffic, the additional equipment on the roof, these crazy weather events that we're having. So let me go back a little bit here too. Is we continually do what we call voice of customer research and marketing research, and it continues to tell us that moisture performance in the roof system and roofing components in general matter, right? We went before we actually, what led us to the innovation of the ionic technology was surveys that we did with a large number of consultants, and I kind of mentioned it earlier. We had them rate their, in order of importance, their concerns and fears, what keeps them up at night, worrying about, what could happen to the roof. And number one, puncture. Number two, moisture, and they go hand in hand, right? If you have a hole in your membrane or puncture in your membrane, that's just an invitation for water to get into the roofing system. So, we took the results of that survey and we said, what can we do with our product to make sure that we let the consultants sleep well at night, if you will. So we enhanced the moisture resistance. That was the primary goal of the Ionic technology. ASTM allows up to 10% moisture absorption by weight. We cut that in half, and we only allow up to 5% moisture by weight. So absorption, moisture by weight. So, so we essentially doubled the moisture resistance of our product, because really, these roofs are going to be around for 15, 20, 25, 30 years, right? It's very high likelihood that moisture is going to find its way into that roof at some point, right? I don't think there's anybody in the roofing industry that's naive enough to think that they can make the roof watertight and it's going to stay watertight for the full 20 years. So what do you do? You want to make sure that you install products that you're confident in, that those components will still be able to perform if they're exposed to some level of moisture. They have moisture resistant properties that will still allow them to perform in those conditions.
That is yes, that is so important for everything that's going on. And I would love you to go further too and just talk a little bit about the improves mat to core bond. That I need a little explanation on.
Yeah, you've done your homework, so that's good. Yep. So there were obviously, there's also I don't want to say side effects, but other benefits as we enhance the product. We enhanced the mat to core bond. So the way that the product is manufactured, it's probably no secret how, of course, there could be some proprietary secrets in everybody's little formula, but it's a wet process. You take a solid rock, you crush it down, essentially make a powder. You add the water. That's the beauty of gypsum, is you can actually rehydrate it. So you take it to a powder, rehydrate it, and it's a wet process that goes onto the fiberglass facer of our DensDeck Prime products. And that bond that happens where the gypsum actually works its way into the fiberglass facer is critical to reduce delamination and help with wind uplift pressure. We talked about, these crazy wind events and the uplift pressures that can, essentially pull a roof apart. So in our work to enhance the core, we also enhance that mat to core bond.
That's that. And it keeps going back to what we talked about at the very beginning, battling the elements basically, and the elements are either human made or they are weather created or whatever it may be.
Right.
So this really helps. And I know that has been a focus. And so let's talk about what the talk of the industry is. I've been hearing about this through so many different sources, and I've been that's one reason I've been so excited about this webinar is, you know, to really be able to talk about StormX. Everyone's talking about it. They were talking about you a couple weeks ago on the Coffee Conversations. So let's share with the audience, what is this?
Sure. So I think probably anybody that's in the roofing industry is well aware of the FM, the new FM classification for very severe hail. I don't want to say it was welcomed, but I think everybody knows about it, and there were some challenges to meet that. Initially, to meet the VSH requirements, it was primarily wood-based products, and the industry's worked for decades to get wood out of the assemblies, right? Because they don't tend to fare well when there's moisture present. They don't tend to fare well when there's fire. So while the industry was uneasy, a little unhappy with this, you know, trying to meet this with the current technology that was out there, we decided to take the challenge on. I mean, when you think back about, I didn't even go back to 1987 when we invented DensDeck originally, right? That was innovative at the time, and then move forward to, you know, pre-priming it so it doesn't have to be primed in the field, then enhancing our product to be, you know, our facers, and then again with the ionic technology. So we looked at this as just another opportunity to enhance our product or invent a new product, innovate, and give our customers options other than the current technology, which at that time was wood-based. So, and I think there were only about 550 approved assemblies for VSH FM classification, and they were primarily wood. So, yeah, so we're excited. So we went back to the drawing boards, and our R&D team and product development team, they went through, I want to say, somewhere around 100 iterations of innovation to try to get to a product that would not just meet the FM classification under a single-ply membrane, an approved single-ply membrane assembly, but still be easy enough to handle and score and snap like product that they've been used to, our DensDeck Prime product. So we did it. We did it with our DensDeck StormX Prime roof board. We're the first and only gypsum cover board to meet the FM classification in approved single-ply membrane assemblies. And we've just raised the bar again. It's a whole new level of puncture resistance. It's actually, you've probably heard it too. I've heard it from several people that, you know, they say it's DensDeck Prime on steroids, right?
Yeah.
So,
like it.
Yeah, as long as they keep the word DensDeck Prime in there so they know it's still in the Prime family, then we're great. But
you know what, Chad, talk a little bit too about these approvals with other membranes, with roofing membranes over the top. So you said before StormX came out, there were about 500 approvals. Now, what's happened since then? Because I think this is super exciting.
Yeah, it is. So I think there was around 550, and right now, I don't know the numbers because today, because they change every day. We're approved with all major system manufacturers, and the ones that we aren't are currently testing and working to get approved with StormX under their membrane, single-ply membrane. And I don't want to jinx a perfect record, so I won't go there. But we're at somewhere around 3,300 roof nav approvals for that meet the VSH requirement. So
wow.
That's huge. That's huge. Yeah. That right there is giving the industry and our customers options, and that was the intent. So.
That, you know, we just had a big coffee conversations on very severe hail, and there is so much interest in that, obviously in the hail zones, because and any building that's FM insured, but also like we talked about earlier, just even with everything that's coming in the future, with everything on the rooftop and potential punctures. So what are you hearing from contractors out there about this product?
Well, excitement. They're very excited to have a product, one that they're familiar with. They're familiar with the DensDeck and DensDeck Prime product, right? How it handles, how it scores and snaps. And again, this product handles and scores and snaps, and just like our DensDeck Prime product, but just with a whole new level of performance. And you know, you were talking about the hail region, but it's not just for hail. That was what the intent was originally when we developed it, and we're going to continue to develop. But we've actually had a very large, one of the largest general contractors looking for the product in California, right, where they don't have hail necessarily. We've actually sold two banks, actually through two different membrane manufacturers, but these banks wanted a very robust roof system due to the impacts of bullets. So in that particular area or region, for whatever reason, people like to shoot their guns off in the air, and they've had these bullets come down through the roof. So they're looking for the most robust roof that they can make. Now, don't get me wrong, we're not claiming that the product's bulletproof. Again, these particular owners were looking for a way to enhance their roof, and they thought the DensDeck DensDeck StormX Prime would be the product of choice. So we're happy. Yeah, there's a lot. It doesn't have to just be used in the hail region.
Yeah. And so what are you, I mean, as you said, all the major manufacturers right now are either approved or working on approvals. What are you hearing back from them and about what they're hearing from their customers? What's kind of, I mean, it has to be a sigh of relief for the industry to have this option.
Very happy. It was a good time to be him, even though I can you know, communicate with the membrane manufacturers, and they're very congratulatory, and man, you guys did it again, great job, we appreciate it. And I can't take the credit, obviously. I mean, our research and development team and product development team, they really did it, right? And it wasn't an easy process. It was an investment in time, it was an investment in money, but we knew that it was a need for the industry and a need for our customers, and they've all been very happy, and the feedback from the contractors has been very good. So, and I would assume that any future iterations of this product or any other regions where we can get approvals for this product, we're going to get similar responses.
So before and we're just about ready to go to questions. This has just been so great. But I do want to kind of just go back a little bit on, you know, kind of what our goal was with this webinar was to really share the information, the data, and the products that roofing contractors can use in their sales process and also in their overall relationship with building owners to really help educate them. What are some of the things that you're seeing between, you know, with you or your team working with building owners or contractors working with building owners? Let's, you know, I've kind of made the circle now. Let's have that last thing. What's coming back from the building owners?
So the building owners are very happy that they're going to, you know, get what they expect out of their roof, right? And you know, when we first got this information back and, you know, digesting it and figuring out how do we use this to help the contractors work with the owners, we actually got with some of the country's largest roofing contractors and had video meetings because, you know, it was virtual, but we had meetings, and we actually had them help us develop a presentation, a PowerPoint presentation, going through this data, what is important to them, what would be important to an owner, how do we best keep it simple and high level, because most owners aren't technical, right? They're making a business decision, and hopefully you're thinking long term, because like we talked about, these roofs are 15 to 30 years. But rather than us just take this data from this third-party company and compile it and build what we think is important, we actually went to the contractors themselves and said, would you like to help us? and received with open arms. It was great. I mean, they gave us direction, like when we get time, to sit in front of them. If we had 8 to 10 slides, that would be great. Here's key, points that we think are important to make, and as long as the data supported it, we were able to do that. So ultimately, we want to be able to provide that guidance and those tools and resources for those roofing contractors.
And it's available to roofing contractors, right?
Yeah, it is. It is.
How did they get it?
So I think at the end, you're going to put my contact information up, and that's going to be great because then they can reach out to me directly. We have a whole sales team that already work with roofing contractors and reach out to them and offer this presentation and the tools. They can also be found on DensDeck.com or DensDeckStormX.com. But we would love the opportunity to have further discussions with contractors and owners, right, or design community, whoever sees value in it, and then to be able to provide them these sales tools.
Yeah, and you can also find the links to that to download that presentation on Roofers Coffee Shop in the Georgia Pacific directory online and across with this RLW. You're going to see it everywhere. You also have a great infographic that people can use and share that also kind of helps explain the story even better. So. Yep. Well, I don't know if it could be better than what you did today, Chad, but it's a great tool.
I'm sure it's better. Our marketing team is very good, and they put that together. So, and just for $19.99, you can. No, I'm kidding. It's free. We'll give it to you for free.
Well, good. Okay, great. So thank you. I just want to kind of recap before we go on to, because we do have some questions coming in here, but in order for everyone just to get the data, see the PowerPoint, find out more about the survey, obviously find out more about Ionic technology and about StormX and how to get that into your sales system and into your roofing systems. That is all available in those places. So it is really a tool that can help you to, provide better roofs for the building owners, and something that's, as always, continues to raise the professionalism and the respect of the roofing industry.
Right. Yep. And again, they can reach out to me directly, my contact information, and I can help direct them, depending on the region and territory that they're in, maybe what they may be interested in. I can get them in contact with the right person. But again, it's also all available on our website as well.
Perfect. Okay, we got some time for a few questions. Now, if you have any questions, please put them into the sidebar, into your control panel. And if we do have quite a few here. So if we don't get to them, don't worry. Chad and his team are going to reach out to you directly. So you'll get those questions answered one way or the other. The first question that we had up here, and I like this question because it really kind of goes back to when you're talking to the building owner, really understanding it. But someone said, what exactly goes into O&M costs?
Okay, yeah, sure. So in this survey, the O&M costs related to the cost of repairs. So that's patching, cleaning, caulking, flashing repairs. Cost of damage related to delamination from wind, puncture from foot traffic, puncture from debris, hail damage, and then cost of leaks, so water damage. I think, and I don't know if I really emphasize that enough. I mean, if you think about the damage that water does, and it could be a small leak, and trying to find where that leak is. I mean, it could be raining in one office, but the hole in the membrane or the puncture in the membrane is somewhere far away. So there's a lot of money and time spent trying to find that. Not to also forget about the damage that could be done inside the building, right? And whether it's an asset that's now been damaged. So it's very important.
Yeah. Okay, cool. And kind of and we kind of talked about this a little bit, but just so that everybody is aware of it. The question that just came in is, what defines very severe hail?
So this is where I phone a friend. No, I'm kidding. So I guess what defines the VSH or very severe hail standard is it's FM's property loss prevention data sheet 1-341, right? So that, and if anybody it memorizes those, then they could probably answer that without asking me. But what it does is it actually, there's an ice ball launcher, right? And it shoots a 2-inch diameter ice ball that's made in the factory at 152 to 160 feet per second. So, and this applies something like 53 to 58 foot-pounds of force. So it's actually pretty fun to watch. They're watching a cannon, if you will, shoot an ice ball at a roofing system.
Yeah,
it's neat. It's fun. It's a robust test that requires robust components to pass.
Anybody who wants to learn more on that too, go back and check on some of we've had some different things on the site on all about that on very severe hail. So be sure to check in on that if you want more information there. We had a question here, and I'm kind of watching as we're going here, but did the results depend on the type of cover board used? And we had another question up here, which was very similar to that, yeah, let's just go with that because this is pretty much the same. Did the results depend on the type of cover board used?
So I would say that there's a lot of different cover boards out there with varying degrees of performance. So, I would suspect that the type of cover board used played some role in the performance of that roof. But in general, the survey found that because the survey wasn't done based on just gypsum-based cover boards, it was all cover boards. So even with all the variety of cover boards in there, every single ply roof system that had a cover board performed better than those without. So I would, my gut feeling would say it probably did have some influence, but overall, just the use of a cover board will enhance the roof.
Okay, good. Okay, good, because that was a question that came in. I've got them kind of coming from different areas here, and I just want to make sure we're covering all of these.
I'm gonna go easy on me.
Go easy on Chad. Okay, here we are. Hold on one second. We're gonna just make sure we're getting all of these. Thank you so much to everybody for your comments. So I am, let me see, because I got questions coming in two ways here. So hold on one second. Okay, here's one that's kind of interesting. Is DensDeck StormX suggested for use now in place of DensDeck Prime, even if you're not in a very severe hail zone? We kind of talked about that, but it can be used everywhere, I guess, is really what it comes down to.
I wouldn't say that we're not suggesting use it in place of Prime. They more than welcome to, depending on what the design intent and what they're looking for out of their roof. Again, it's definitely a higher performance product when it comes to impact resistance. So if there's a need for that, we're doing some work to quantify like wind uplift for coastal regions. But just like those examples where those two banks decided to put it on their roof to have the most robust system that they could get. So it can be used anywhere where DensDeck Prime would be.
So one of the questions we had here, and I'm gonna be really careful about this. So I want to say thank you very much to Aaron for your questions here. The one is interested in additional costs of premium products. We can't really talk about that on air because We can get in, there's just certain reasons you can't talk about pricing in groups like this or on there. But what I would like to say is, again, to that point, Chad, how does everybody out there get a hold of your sales team? How do they get a hold to ask some of these questions that probably are better one-on-one?
Sure. They can actually, again, they can reach out to me, and I can get them in contact with the right person for that region. I did want to say, I'm not going to talk about pricing, but we're competitively priced when you look at assemblies. There are, additional cost anytime you, like I talked about earlier, when you install, or enhance your roof system, whether with any component, right? So it's a fair question. But I'd say if they want to get in touch with someone on the sales team to be able to, talk about it in more detail, I would say reach out to me.
Yep, and his Chad's email is right there. So I know there's a couple questions that we might not get to. I'm trying to kind of scan through them and make sure that we do. So I think we have time for one more question. And the one that came in that I'm seeing, let's talk a little bit about the assemblies. So we had here, can coverboard be installed on an existing roof?
Yeah, short answer is yes, if the roof is going to be re-roofed, right? So if they're going to take off the old roof and put a new roof on it, then yes. It's not for new construction only. And again, they would work with the membrane manufacturer to determine they would work with the owner to determine what the appropriate steps for that would be.
Perfect. Okay. Well, Chad, if I didn't get to your question, please, again, everybody take a minute, grab this email. You can go right to Chad. As always, you can reach out to me, Heidi, at rooferscoffeeshop.com, and I'll help you get in contact. Or go to the Roofers Coffee Shop, and it's right there in the directory, all the information you need, all the ways to get a hold of them, and all the how to download and get to those great sales tools. So, Chad, thank you so much for being here today. Any last words?
I wanted to thank you for the opportunity. We very much appreciate it. We think we have a great product here that's very much needed, and we appreciate you allowing us this time to get the word out.
Well, I appreciate you. And I have to say, one of the things, just for everyone listening, is as I've been visiting with Chad and his team, I have seen such a commitment to this data and this study for, as we just talked about, all cover boards, and really understanding the importance of it in the roofing system, and to be able to share that kind of data that is beyond a single product, I think is so important for the industry. So I want to say thank you back for everything you've done, and everything the team there has done for the industry, and building owners, and for our buildings above
everyone.
us.
Everyone.
Yeah. So I would like to invite everybody again to watch this on demand. This was recorded, and you will be able to get it within the day on the RLW page, Read, Listen, Watch, of Roofers Coffee Shop. And why is it Read, Listen, Watch? Because we want you to be able to learn and get the information the way you want, when you want. So read it through the transcripts, listen to it online on Roofers Coffee Shop or on our podcast channels, and watch it on video, either on our site or on our YouTube channel. So lots of ways to get to watch Chad over and over and over again. And the next RLW will be May 26th. And I am very happy to announce that we are going to have Trent Cotney back on the show. Trent has been here every year. He is an amazing, just kind of a treasure to the roofing industry with everything he's doing to help contractors with law. And on May 26th, we're going to talk about the importance of maintenance of your manuals. So all the legal stuff, all your contracts, and all of your manuals, where you're really looking at your employment, your safety, how important it is to mitigate risk by maintaining those constantly. And no one's better at that and can give you better information and help and wisdom than Trent Cotney. So please join us May 26th at our normal time. Please watch us on Roofer's Coffee Shop, and we'll be looking for all of you online. Thank you so much and have a great day.
Thank you, Heidi.